She worked in their mansion for 25 years. Served tea to the very people who stole her child. Every night, she whispered to the garden, thinking he was buried beneath it. But then, one day, he knocked on the door. Alive. Grown. And ready to speak the truth. The baby they said was dead. Was standing at the gate. The rain fell hard that night, as if the sky was ashamed. 17-year-old Maya, a young black housemaid, lay on a stiff bed in the servant quarters of the Whitmore mansion. Her screams were muffled by the thick walls, the kind designed to keep pain quiet. She wasn't in a hospital. Not even a clinic. She gave birth on a folded sheet, surrounded by silence and fear. Only one other person was there, the Whitmore's private family doctor. Paid in cash. Sworn to secrecy. Maya cried through the pain. Sweat clung to her skin. She reached down instinctively when the baby came. But the doctor pulled away. There was no baby cry. No warmth in her arms. Just cold. He didn't make it, the doctor whispered. Stillborn. And that was it. He wrapped the baby in a white towel, tight and fast. Maya screamed. Reached. Fought. But the doctor stepped back. A butler entered. Silent. Holding a shovel. Maya's vision blurred. Where is he? Where is my son? No answer. That night, she was told to rest. And by morning, there was no sign a child had ever been born. No grave. No marker. No explanation. Just an empty room and a bleeding heart. The Whitmores never spoke of it again. Maya stayed in that mansion. She had no choice. She was 17. Alone. Poor. And under contract. They gave her a raise. Moved her to the laundry wing. And gave her more hours. No apologies. No truth. Only silence. For 25 years. Every year on the same night, Maya walked alone into the back garden, behind the fountain, past the trees, to a small patch of untouched soil. There was no stone. Just a place she felt was his. She would kneel. Press her palm into the earth. Whisper. I'm sorry, baby. I tried. Then wipe her eyes, go back inside, and serve tea to the same people who took everything from her. What she didn't know was that her son wasn't buried at all. He was alive. And 25 years later, he was coming back. 25 years passed like fog through broken glass. Maya never remarried. Never left the mansion. She raised other people's children, ironed linen napkins, and folded white dresses for debutantes who couldn't remember her name. But every night, she remembered his. She had chosen one. Malachi. It meant, my messenger. No one ever called him that. No one ever had the chance. Except her. Alone. Whispering it to herself before sleep. In the upstairs parlor, Maya dusted the marble shelves like she always did. Her back was slower now. Her hands ached more. But she didn't complain. The Whitmores never asked how she was. They never even looked her in the eye. Until the day a letter arrived. A deliveryman handed it to the front butler. No return address. Just a bold name in gold script. Malachi Whitmore. The butler laughed. Another scam? Maya froze. Her heart dropped. He said the name aloud. Her name. She waited until the hallway cleared. Then she picked up the letter and slipped it into her apron. She opened it alone in the linen room. Inside was a single sheet. You buried me. But I'm still standing. I'll be at the door this Friday at noon. There was no signature. But Maya dropped the letter like it had burned her. Across the city. Malachi stepped out of a sleek black sedan. Tall. Composed. Skin the same deep tone as hers. Eyes shaped just like hers, the ones she saw every morning in the mirror. He wasn't raised by Whitmores. He wasn't raised by Maya. He had spent 25 years bouncing between foster homes, institutions, and shelters, always told he was abandoned. Always told his mother didn't want him. But he had the file now. The records. The DNA. And the pain. He didn't want revenge. He wanted answers. He wanted truth. And he was finally going to knock on the door where his life began, and was erased. Friday. Noon. The Whitmore mansion was quiet, too quiet. Lunch was being served in the West Wing. Laughter drifted from the dining room, where porcelain clinked and champagne fizzed. Maya stood near the grand entrance, clutching the polished handle of her cleaning cart like it was the only thing keeping her upright. She wasn't supposed to answer the door. She never had before. But something pulled her there, step by step, heartbeat by heartbeat. Then, the doorbell rang. She didn't call for the butler. She didn't move. She just stood. It rang again. Louder. This time, she opened it. And there he was. Malachi. Tall. Silent. Face unreadable. But those eyes. Her eyes. Same almond shape. Same heavy lids. Same fire hiding behind old pain. For a moment, they just stared. No words. Just decades of silence, shattered by breath. Then came footsteps. The butler rushed over. "Excuse me, sir, this entrance is reserved." Malachi held up a folder. Legal paper. Sealed documents. "I'm here to speak with the owners." "And you are?" "Malachi Whitmore." The butler blinked. Maya nearly dropped her rag. Malachi looked at her now. Only her. Then whispered. "Did you name me?" "Malachi." Maya's lip trembled. Her fingers gripped the doorframe. She couldn't speak. But her eyes said yes. Tears welled. She swallowed them down. The butler glanced between them. "I'll go check with the family." He disappeared fast. The silence returned. But it wasn't empty. Malachi stepped closer, his voice quiet. "I've had questions my whole life." Maya lowered her head. "I've had nightmares mine." "You knew I was alive?" She looked up. The hurt in her face cracked her voice. "They told me you were dead." Malachi flinched. "I buried you," she whispered, and didn't even know where. From the hallway, footsteps echoed. Mrs. Whitmore. Cold. Composed. Expensive pearls around her throat. She saw the boy at the door. Froze. Then her smile stiffened. "May I help you?" Malachi didn't blink. "I think you already did." The parlor room hadn't changed in 25 years. Same white leather chairs. Same piano that had never been played. Same oil painting of the Whitmore family, glowing, perfect, untouched. But now. There was a storm inside it. Malachi sat across from the Whitmores. Mr. Whitmore, aging, red-faced, nervous. Mrs. Whitmore, frozen like marble. Maya, standing in the corner, hands clasped, knees trembling. The file lay on the coffee table. Adoption papers. Hospital records. DNA confirmation. Proof that Malachi was born in this house, and taken from it. No one spoke for a full minute. Then Malachi looked directly at Mrs. Whitmore. His voice was quiet, sharp. "You said I died. Why?" The air cracked. Mrs. Whitmore smoothed her skirt. You were unexpected. Mr. Whitmore added, we were trying to protect everyone. Malachi leaned forward. From what? Mrs. Whitmore's eyes darted to Maya. From her mistake. Maya winced, like she'd been slapped. Malachi turned toward her. Did you know they gave me away? She shook her head, tears building. They told me you were stillborn. I believed them. He stared at her. His jaw tightened. Mrs. Whitmore crossed her arms. Look, this was decades ago. We did what we thought was best, for our family. For your future. You buried my future, Malachi snapped. Behind your rose garden. Maya suddenly stepped forward. She couldn't stay silent. I never stopped thinking about you, she whispered. Every birthday, I lit a candle. Every time I saw a boy your age, I looked twice. Malachi's eyes glistened. I thought you left me. She shook her head. No. They took you. I never even held you. Silence again. Only the old grandfather clock ticked. Then Malachi stood. I came for truth, he said. I didn't come for revenge. He looked at Maya. But I'm not leaving without her. Mrs. Whitmore shot up. She's our employee. She belongs here. Malachi turned, eyes like steel. She belonged to me first. The room was ice. No one breathed. Mrs. Whitmore's jaw clenched so tight her pearl necklace shifted on her throat. You think you can come in here and, what? Tear everything apart because of a few papers? Malachi didn't blink. I'm not here to tear anything, he said. I'm here to restore what you broke. She scoffed. You were adopted by a good family. You were given a chance. Why ruin it? Malachi's voice dropped lower. Because you lied. To her. To me. To yourselves. He looked at Maya, whose eyes were wide, scared, stunned. And then. He did something that cracked the air wide open. He walked across the room and stood beside her. Not as an outsider. Not as an accusation. But as her son. Mrs. Whitmore's hands shook. You don't know what she did. She was a servant. She was desperate. She came from nothing. Malachi replied, so did I. Mr. Whitmore tried to intervene. This can all be sorted, let us offer you something. A settlement. Closure. Malachi turned. You think I came for money? The way he said it, full of disgust, disbelief, made the whole room shrink. I didn't come for what you owe. I came for who you stole. He looked at Maya. And then, for the first time, her hand reached for his. Their fingers barely touched, but it was enough. A lifetime of silence broke in that moment. Down the hall, whispers spread. The Whitmore family lawyer was already making calls. Staff paused in doorways. Even the younger Whitmore children, now adults, peeked around corners. They all knew something seismic had shifted. Something that couldn't be cleaned up, paid off, or silenced. Malachi turned to Maya. Pack your things, he said. You don't work for them anymore. She froze. But. I live here. Not anymore. And then he added, almost breaking. You're coming home. With me. Maya stood at the edge of the mansion's servant quarters, her hands trembling above an old suitcase. She hadn't touched it in 25 years. Dust coated the leather. One of the buckles was broken. Inside, the clothes hadn't changed, faded uniforms, black shoes, a single yellow scarf she never had the courage to wear. She placed a folded apron inside. Then stopped. Her eyes scanned the room. The same cot she cried on the night Malachi was taken. The same cracked mirror she avoided when her belly grew. The same walls that held her silence. She picked up the scarf. Put it around her neck. And for the first time in decades, she looked in the mirror. Outside, Malachi waited by the gate. He paced once. Then again. This wasn't a victory. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like walking into a burning building and finding the person you thought was long gone, breathing, but scarred. He didn't know how to comfort her. He didn't even know how to hug her. But he knew she wasn't staying here. Not another night. Inside, Maya closed her bag. She took one last glance at the room. And then, she reached into the bottom drawer and pulled out a tiny object wrapped in cloth. A baby sock. Yellowed with age. Soft as tissue. Something she had kept hidden, even from herself. She tucked it into her pocket. As she stepped into the hallway, the butler stared at her. "Leaving so soon?" he asked, smug. She didn't respond. He smirked. "Thought you'd die in this house." Maya stopped. Turned to him. And with a calmness he didn't expect, she said. "I almost did." Then she walked away. At the gate, Malachi opened the car door for her. She paused. Looked back one last time at the mansion. The place where she lost everything. Then she looked at him. And whispered, "Are you sure?" He nodded. "I don't know how to be a son. But I know I don't want to be a stranger anymore." She stepped in. And as the car pulled away, the mansion grew smaller in the window. But her grip on his hand grew stronger. The apartment was quiet. Not mansion quiet, this kind of quiet had honesty in it. Maya stepped inside slowly. A clean, modern space. Gray couch. Pale blue walls. A wall of books. It smelled like fresh linen and coffee. Malachi closed the door behind her. She didn't sit. She didn't speak. Her eyes scanned the photos on the shelf, tech award plaques, framed magazine covers, one picture of Malachi at 12 with a foster family. No family photos. No baby pictures. Just him, growing alone. "I don't know where to start," Maya said, voice barely above a whisper. Malachi leaned against the wall. "Me neither." She looked at him. "Do you hate me?" He blinked slowly. "I hated the idea of you for a long time." Maya nodded. "I used to imagine you rich. Happy. Living a better life without me." Malachi shook his head. "I used to imagine you cruel. That you left me in a basket. That I cried and you never turned around." Her lips parted, trembling. "I cried for you," she said. Silence. "I didn't even get to hold you." She sat down slowly on the couch, her hands clenched. "I'm not a mother. I mean," she paused, "not a real one. I missed your first words. Your first steps. Your birthdays. I don't know if you like spicy food, or if you're allergic to anything." Malachi walked over. Sat beside her. "I don't know how to be a son either," he said. "I don't know how to call someone mom without it feeling like a lie." She nodded, eyes wet. "Then maybe," she whispered, "we start with the truth." He nodded once. And for the first time, their silence didn't feel like a wound. It felt like a door opening. Later that evening, Maya cooked. Nothing fancy. Just rice and okra, like her grandmother used to make. Malachi watched her from the kitchen bar, curious, cautious. She sprinkled seasoning with a rhythm like muscle memory. Then she turned, held up a spoon. "Try it." He did. Paused. Then smiled, just a little. Then smiled, just a little. "It tastes like something I missed, but didn't know I was missing." She smiled back. "Then we're doing okay." The next morning, Maya stood by the window, cradling a mug of tea. Sunlight spilled through pale curtains. The warmth on her face was different here. It didn't burn. It comforted. But something in her eyes was heavy. Malachi stepped out of his room, shirt wrinkled, hair messy. "You always up this early?" he asked. 25 years of 5 a.m. shifts," she smiled gently. "My body thinks it's still scrubbing floors." He chuckled. Sat at the kitchen table. Silence sat with them, but this time it wasn't awkward. It waited, for something to be said. Maya exhaled. "There's something I never told anyone." Malachi looked up. Her voice softened. "About your father." Malachi's shoulders stiffened. He had never asked. Not once. Because part of him feared the answer. Maya walked to the table and sat across from him. "I was only 17, she began. "You already know that part." He nodded. She looked away. "He was 18. White. The Whitmore's son." Malachi's eyebrows rose slightly. "He didn't force me," she said quickly. "But it wasn't love. It wasn't anything, clear. I was young. Alone. And he was careless." A long pause. "They called it a scandal. Said the baby couldn't exist. That it would ruin the family name." She looked at him now. "And so they erased you." Malachi leaned back slowly. "You mean, my father's a Whitmore?" She nodded once. "You've met him," she whispered. "You just didn't know." Malachi stood. He paced. The room suddenly felt smaller. "You worked for him? After what he did?" "I worked for them," she said. "Because I didn't know where else to go. Because I couldn't afford to leave. Because I thought my baby was dead." His fists clenched, then relaxed. He looked at her again. "You shouldn't have had to stay." "I know. And he shouldn't get to live like none of it happened." She didn't argue. Instead, she said quietly. "Then let's make sure he doesn't." Outside the apartment, a car parked. Inside it, a woman in sunglasses holding a manila envelope. Inside that envelope, was a photo. And a secret. Because someone else remembered Malachi, too. And they were ready to bring the past to light. The woman in the car watched Maya's building from behind tinted glass. Her fingers tapped the envelope in her lap, steady, deliberate. Camilla. She'd once been a junior maid in the Whitmore estate, same year Maya gave birth. But unlike Maya, she got out. Moved to Georgia. Made a life. Still, the memory haunted her. Because she saw it. The baby. The doctor wrapping him in a towel. The shovel. The hush money. They said never speak of it. Pretend nothing happened. But she had seen Maya scream. She had seen the fear. And now? Now the child they stole had returned a man. She opened the envelope and looked again, a grainy photo from 25 years ago. Maya. Holding a yellow sock. And a second photo, of a younger Thomas Whitmore, standing with his arm around Maya, his hand lower than it should have been. Camilla whispered to herself. It's time the world knew what they did. Back in the apartment, Malachi sat in front of a laptop, scrolling news articles. His mind raced. Thomas Whitmore, son of the estate. Now a high-profile real estate mogul. Publicly philanthropic. Secretly, something else. Maya stood behind him. Don't ruin your peace with their poison, she said gently. He looked up. He's my father. She nodded, her throat tight. And he got to live all these years without knowing what he took from me. From us. His voice shook. I just want him to say it. To admit what he did. To face me. Maya reached for him, touched his shoulder. We don't need his apology to heal. He paused. But maybe, she added softly, the world needs to hear the truth. A loud knock at the door. Malachi rose, tense. He opened it cautiously. Camilla stood there, envelope in hand. "Hello," she said. "I knew you when you were minutes old." He blinked. "I was there," she said. "The night they said you died." Camilla stepped into the apartment like she was walking through time. She looked around, not at the furniture, but at Maya, standing frozen behind the counter. "I've waited 25 years to look you in the eye again," she said. Maya's voice trembled. "Why didn't you say anything back then?" Camilla placed the envelope gently on the table. "Because I was scared. Because I needed the paycheck. Because I was selfish." She turned to Malachi, eyes softening. "But I never forgot you." He opened the envelope slowly. Inside, old Polaroids, slightly curled at the edges. One showed Maya on the night she gave birth, her face sweaty, eyes half closed. Another showed a white towel wrapped tightly around a newborn. No emotion. Just cold routine. Then one more. A candid photo. Thomas Whitmore. Teenage. Smiling. His arm around Maya's waist in a dimly lit hallway. Her face blank, almost afraid. Malachi clenched his jaw. "That's him." Maya nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "He said it would be our secret," she whispered. Camilla folded her arms. "He said the same to me. I saw what they did to you. They paid the doctor, the butler, even the groundskeeper." She took a breath. "But they didn't pay me. I just disappeared." Malachi stood now, pacing. "This changes everything." Camilla nodded. "I've kept this for decades. But I saw your face on the news. Something in me said, he's ready. He's strong enough now." Maya looked up. "Why now?" Camilla looked her dead in the eye. "Because you deserve to stop whispering." That night, Malachi posted one photo to social media. No caption. Just the image of his young mother holding a baby sock, and the blurry shadow of a white boy in the background. Within hours, it exploded. #Whitmore Truth started trending. Journalists began calling. Activists, too. And behind the curtains of the Whitmore estate, hands started shaking. Because the truth was no longer buried. It was online. By morning, everything had changed. News vans lined the street. Cameras flashed outside Maya's apartment. Headlines screamed across the internet. Billionaire family hid illegitimate child, mother speaks out after 25 years. Was this black-maid silence by the Whitmores? DNA confirms, tech mogul is secret heir to elite empire. Malachi sat by the window, scrolling with a storm in his eyes. Maya stood behind him, watching her face appear on national news, the photo with the baby sock now zoomed in and dissected on every screen. She turned away. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. "You didn't have to," Malachi said. "They made you invisible. This is the world finally seeing you." She walked to the kitchen. "Seeing me, or judging me?" He followed her. "No one's judging you, Maya. You didn't do anything wrong." She looked up sharply. "I survived. That's what I did. And sometimes, surviving felt like shame." Later that day, Maya stood in front of a microphone at a community center. Not a press conference. Just a town meeting. But the room was full. Malachi sat in the front row, watching her climb the steps alone. She wore the yellow scarf. She unfolded a piece of paper, then paused. Trembled. Then, she looked up, and spoke. "I was a maid in a house that gave me rules, not rights. I was told my child was dead. And for 25 years, I believed that lie. I served the family that stole from me, because I had nowhere else to go. The room was silent. I don't want your pity. I want you to know that I am not ashamed. Not anymore. She looked at Malachi now. This is my son. His name is Malachi. I named him that before I ever saw his face. It means messenger. And in the back of that room, a figure slipped in unnoticed. Thomas Whitmore. Gray suit. Nervous eyes. Watching the life he erased, finally reclaim its voice. After the speech, Maya stepped outside into the light. Applause still echoed behind her, but her hands shook. She didn't notice the man near the edge of the parking lot, until he spoke. You wear it well. The scarf. Her breath caught. Thomas Whitmore. Older now. Gray around the temples. But the same eyes. Same smirk, too, though it faltered under her stare. She straightened. You shouldn't be here. He stepped closer. I had to come. I saw the press conference. She raised her chin. Was that the first time you ever heard our son's name? He said nothing. Say it. Her voice cracked. Thomas looked around. Lowered his tone. Maya, listen, what happened, we were young. We made mistakes. Her eyes filled. You didn't make a mistake. You made a decision. You let them take him. You told them I was nothing. He winced. It was complicated. My parents said. Your parents didn't lie to me. You did. He swallowed. Then, softly. Malachi. Her knees almost gave, but she didn't let them. That's the first honest thing you've ever said to me. Malachi stepped outside now, walking toward them. Thomas froze. They locked eyes. It was like a mirror twisted by time. I saw your face in Forbes last year, Thomas said. Didn't know who you were then. Now. I can't unsee it. Malachi crossed his arms. You left my mother with silence. Then you lived in it comfortably. Thomas's voice broke slightly. I don't expect forgiveness. Malachi nodded. Good. Then turned to Maya. You ready to go? She nodded. As they walked past, Thomas called out. I don't know what kind of father I would have been. Malachi didn't turn back. But I know what kind of man you were. They got in the car. Drove away. And for the first time in her life, Maya didn't feel like a maid. She felt like someone who had been buried, and just took her first breath above ground. The Whitmore mansion sat behind gates that once kept secrets safe. But secrets don't stay buried forever. Especially not in the age of headlines. By the end of the week, 3 major networks had run the story. Camilla's photos. Maya's speech. Malachi's DNA proof. And now. The Whitmore Foundation released a public apology. Scripted. Polished. Read by a spokesperson. But the message was clear. We acknowledge Maya Thompson as the mother of Malachi Whitmore. We recognize the pain she endured in silence and the injustice committed against her. Effective immediately, she will receive full compensation, a public apology, and ownership of the guest house where she resided for over 2 decades. Maya watched the broadcast in silence. The words didn't feel like justice. They felt like an admission, which was more than she'd ever dreamed of getting. Malachi turned the TV off. They're scared of the story, he said. Not sorry. Maya didn't answer. Her hands folded in her lap. I never wanted their money, she finally whispered. Just the truth. That's always been enough. That afternoon, they returned to the mansion. Not through the servants' entrance. Not to scrub floors. But to see the place one last time. Maya walked through each hallway like she was reclaiming every step. She touched the old laundry chute. The staircase she used to mop. The garden where she used to kneel and whisper to the soil. Then they reached the guest house. Freshly painted. Clean. Empty. A legal deed now sat on the counter, with her name on it. Maya looked around slowly. It still smells like bleach, she murmured. Malachi smiled. We'll fix that. He reached into his bag and handed her a small frame. Inside it, the yellow baby sock. Mounted above a quote. What they buried couldn't stay dead forever. Maya's eyes welled. I never thought I'd see my name on a deed. You gave me my name, Malachi said softly. Now you get yours. She hugged him. This time, fully. No fear. No shame. No secrets. Just mother and son, finally, seen. Weeks later, Maya stood alone in the garden behind the mansion. The sky was pale blue. Birds chirped softly. The roses had bloomed early that season. But she wasn't looking at the flowers. She was standing over the same spot she used to visit every year, the patch of earth where she once thought her baby had been buried. Her hands were clean now. Not cracked from bleach. Not raw from scrubbing. She held no mop. No tray. Just a single seedling in a clay pot. A yellow rose. Malachi stepped up behind her, hands in his coat pockets. They say yellow roses symbolize rebirth, he said. Maya smiled. They also symbolize truth. She bent down. Dug gently into the soil with her hands. No gloves. And as she placed the rose into the ground, she whispered. You were never dead. You were just waiting to come back. The garden was different now. Not haunted. Not heavy. Just full, of breath, of growth, of something sacred. Maya stood slowly and brushed the dirt from her palms. Malachi offered her a handkerchief. But she shook her head. Let the dirt stay. It reminds me I was here. And that I rose. They walked together down the gravel path. Weeks later, Maya moved into a small home near Malachi's tech firm. She didn't take the mansion deed, she donated it to a women's shelter for young mothers. I don't want walls that watched me suffer, she said. Let them watch someone heal. Malachi visited her every Sunday. Sometimes they talked for hours. Sometimes they sat in silence. But now, that silence felt like peace. One afternoon, Maya opened a package delivered to her door. Inside, a photo album. The first page, a Polaroid of her and Malachi in the kitchen, laughing mid-bite over burnt okra. The second page, the baby sock. The third, a picture of the rose she planted, now blooming, under a small engraved stone. Malachi, born twice. Buried never. And for the first time in 25 years, Maya no longer waited for closure. She had it. And she was finally home.